So hi guys, welcome to the second part of this video. So in the last part we talked about step number 17. We're just preparing our files to be used for we merged the files, and we made sure that we removed some spaces and made them consistent with the requirements. And now we are ready to perform step number 17, which is really now getting deep into databases. So using suitable software, open and examine the data in the file malljobs.csv. So let's go ahead and open that file in question. And remember what I said about um, the concept of evaluating and rather examining different files that you have. So it's very important that you look up for the data types, for the names, and so on. So in this case, notice that the job code has got spaces. So we're examining and we identify that we shouldn't have spaces. Job description, we shouldn't have spaces. So I'm going just to delete, what am I doing here? So just go ahead and do job description and make it like that. Good. And the rest of the stuff looks fairly okay to me. And so we can go ahead and just save this file as it is, Elmal jobs. But if you were interested, in a person who is interested in about keeping the original files that you'll be given in the exam, you don't want to replace this file. So you can save this file as a different name so that you don't necessarily have to, start wondering where your files are. So I'll save it as jobs just to differentiate it. I'll just say job 0001 just to differentiate it from the original file in case I need to go back to the original file. So yeah, so we've examined this file and we go back to the question. Using this and the file you step in step 16, create a relational database. So differentiate it from the flat file. And by the way, guys, if you didn't know, an example of a flat file is this file that we have here. This is a flat file, and it has so much data in one spreadsheet. Remember, they say that the flat file is basically a type of file that just has data in a single table, and everything here is in a single table. And believe me, there's so much information in this table. We have information about employees, we have information about the jobs, we have information about the hotel, about the type of hotel, all in one file. This is crazy. A database cannot be like that. This is too much information in one file. We need to decentralize, or to create multiple tables, which this information can go into multiple tables to save the integrity. And that's the disadvantage of flat files, guys. Because if I want to delete Sarah Kruger, or Kogler, not Kruger, Sarah Kogler, you will notice that if I attempt to delete this record, I'll delete also the job code, the place, the address one and that, and everything that is related in this column, everything will be deleted. Now, if I told you that this company decided to fire all these employees, that means that you decided to delete everyone from here. Notice what happens. If, say, we fired everyone, we delete all these guys. Let's just delete for a moment. Notice what has happened. We've lost all the information. We just wanted to delete the employee, but we've lost all the information that we have in our database. And this is very critical, guys. This is very critical. I'm almost crying. I'm emotional now. Just joking. But you see, I'm trying to explain this in the simplest form possible. Because if you don't understand this, then you will not see the need for normalization. Because students have asked me, what's the point of normalizing a database? I mean, what's the essence? What are we trying to accomplish when we normalize a database? This is one of the things that we're trying to avoid when by performing a normalization. So that when we delete information just for a particular table, we just want to delete an employee whom we're fired. We don't want to delete multiple data which was linked to that employee or stuff like that, because the other data will remain. But if your data is just in a flat file, then it will be very difficult for you to manipulate that data. That's one problem that you have with a flat file. Okay, and normalization and the relational database tries to solve some of those problems. So that's one problem. The second problem that the one that I just showed you, the problem is called the deletion anomaly. Deletion anomaly. It's an anomaly. It's like a defect. It's a problem. Okay. So deletion anomaly means that when you try to delete data from one part of the table, everything goes together. And our intention was just to delete the person. the forename and the surname. And again, we can't say that we'll delete this like this. You can't delete like that because the database again will be blank. So what happens to this information here? So in fact, the information is so dependent on each other that deleting one part of it will affect the other part. Okay, so I'll undo this and just put it there. So that's the first problem that you find with flat files or spreadsheets or data which is not normalized or data which is not in a relational database. That's the problem that you find. The second problem that you're going to encounter is update anomaly. So, for example, if I have a new student or a new employee who's come, I would need to retype everything about the person. I'll need to type, let's say this guy is Chikasa or Evans, and they say Chikasa. I have to go through to find out what person this is. Maybe they are part of A. I need to type the name of the hotel. I need to type this. I need to type this. And in the process of typing, I may even type something there. Let's say this word is very hard. The good part is that Excel tried to get that name for us. But suppose this name was not going to be typed there and you typed something different and there was an error. You're some guy who suffers from, is it parallax error or something like that? Some people have eyes which see look in this side and then look in this side, and then you're seeing characters different, like spinning characters. So you don't want to read the values differently. So that's another problem that you find with this update anomaly. There are many other things, of course, guys, that you're going to, and there will be also data redundancy. For example, duplication of data. Notice we have got just so much data which is duplicated, so much data which is duplicated, so much data which is duplicated because some employees are working in the same department and we don't have a way of representing this. And this is where, guys, normalization comes in. So some of you, when you're growing up now, normalization becomes a very important term to use. So just purpose it in your heart that when you marry and you start having children, name some of your children with such terms like normalization, normalization patel, just to remind you of the beauty of normalization. Just to remind you of the beauty of normalization. I had a teacher some time back when I was doing my high school. When he introduces, a topic like mathematics, he would say, today we're going to start looking at polygons and stuff like that. And then he would start making fun of these names. You would call somebody by the name and then give them the name of the polygon. And it was fun in class. It kind of made us, relate more with the topic, and connect more with the topic than somebody would just come here and start telling you this is a polygon, this is the pentagon, this is this is that. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to make jokes around the subject matter, just to create a wow moment in class, so that students can really enjoy the class and relate. If they have to remember, they remember the joke. I say, oh, Evans said this here, oh, Evans laughed here. That was the point at which Evans was laughing. Yeah. So some people have told me, why do you laugh in the videos? Why do you laugh in the videos? They don't know about the wow moment. You see, I just don't have to have wrinkled faces like some professors walk in a class and their faces, they're so wrinkled as if blood doesn't circulate on the face. Come on, guys. It is as if blood, when it reaches by the neck, instead of going just past by the face, it just goes behind their back and goes down to their feet. Blood never circulates on their faces. Some people are just so harsh like that. And there are some teachers, of course. You guys who are teachers, you bear with me that we know some teachers who are very, very, very harsh on their faces, very rigid on their faces, and they don't make it easy for students to learn. I mean, class is supposed to be fun, school is supposed to be fun. If we can make it fun, I mean, kids will learn more from us. Okay, good. Yeah. Now that's just a by thing. So now, guys, let's go back to the work that we're supposed to do. Okay, good. Where are we? Okay, so we are creating a normalized database. So I was talking about the importance of normalization. I've just showed you what would happen if a table was not normalized. And it will be very difficult for us to manipulate that table, manipulate that database, because the data is so dependent on each other. Trying to play around with one section of the data will basically affect the other section of the data. And so when we normalize, we are decentralizing the database. We are creating multiple tables and spreading this data around and connecting these tables by links. And it will be as if the data was still connected, but only that it exists in multiple tables. And that's what we are doing when we perform normalization. Okay, so it's a very powerful technique in database. And some of you are going to be computer scientists. This is a technique that you cannot afford to miss. Okay, good. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about that. So I would have loved to prepare a short video on the different stages of normalization, moving from unnormalized form, first normal form, second normal form, and then third normal form. But for the sake of time, I'll just explain and show you some of um, um, the concepts that you would need to know. Okay, good. So let's go back to our database. So I'm going to close this book one because I don't need the values in it anymore. And I'll just remain with employee one and the jobs database or spreadsheet. Okay, good. So now the first thing that we want to do in order to perform normalization is to take our tables to identify, first of all, what is happening to our database. At what point are we? Are we in the first normal form? Are we in the second normal form? Are we in the third normal form? Or are we in the anomalized form? Okay, so you can tell that a table is not normalized by basically two characteristics. Okay, one, if a table is not normalized, you will see repeated groups of data. For example, you will see this kind of data which is repeated. That gives you an idea definitely that this table is not normalized, or this data is this file is not normalized in any way. Okay. And secondly, although we do not have it in this example, it's where we have non-atomic data. So non-atomic data is where you have in one column, you can have, say, red, and then you have BMW, and then you have got, let's say, 1998 in one column. And then you say this is car. This doesn't make sense. And let me show you why. This is called non-atomic data. Non-atomic data. Okay. Because in one column we've got data which can be further broken down or classified into other multiple columns. For example, I can say this is the color, this is the make of the car, and this is the year it was manufactured in. And I can have here, I can say red, here I can say BMW, and here I can say 1998. Don't worry, I love BMW, so I would rather use it as an example in this case. Okay, so notice that this data is called non-atomic data because in one column we are having multiple items of data which is not related. Of course, it is about the entity, the subject car, but it is not necessarily giving us much information about that. We just know that it's car, but it's red BMW 98. It doesn't tell us what red is, what BMW is, what 1998 is, because 1998 could be maybe the year the car died. Oh, the year the car was buried. Yeah, okay. It doesn't have to be manufactured year, okay? So, but we can specify the specifics for what this non-atomic data is. For example, we can say the color is red. Oh, so if somebody sees red, they'll know this is the color of the car. And now, what we have here, this is called atomic data. We've been able to split the data into respective columns, and that's called atomic data. This one is called non-atomic data. So non-atomic data, that gives you an idea that this data is not normalized. In case you encounter this in the exam, this should be the concept that you should treat. Maybe Cambridge one day will give you a non-atomic data and they tell you to normalize. And if you're going to carry it as it is, you're going to make a very big mistake. Okay, so you really need to, first of all, how do you get rid of non-atomic data? You get rid of non-atomic data by taking it into respective columns and then giving them meaningful names, the columns. Okay, so here I can say maybe this meaningful is not meaningful, it's a manufacture year, maybe year manufactured or manufacture year or something like that. So I've taken this data into meaningful useful columns. Okay, so that's one way you know that it is. So two things you know that a database is not normalized. One, repeated groups. Secondly, you find that you shouldn't have, or you if you have non-atomic data, then we know that this table is not normalized. And then it will tell us that will give us an idea that we are actually a normalized form, in a normalized form, which means when we start to perform normalization, we'll have to go through first normal form, we'll go through second normal form, and then we can even go through third normal form. depending on the nature of the database. Sometimes we may end on second normal form, and there's no need of performing a third normal form because the data would have already been normalized by the time we get to second normal form. Okay, so in this case, we won't need to do that. So just get rid of that. Okay, so in this case, the only thing that tells us that this database is not normalized is the fact that we have got repeated groups. And so we know that we have to start from first normal form. So how do we get this database from the first normal form or into the first normal form? So into the first normal form, we say we must not have any repeating groups. Okay, so any repeating groups, we need to take it into a different column. Now, a very easy way that I tell students that you can identify that this data must go in a different column is when you look at the subject. Each table must be about something. A table must have a subject. In this table has a lot of subjects. For example, it has got information about the employee, information about their jobs, information about their place, their addresses, information about the venue, information about the type. This is too much information for one table. So you can look out for groupings, okay? And this is a very easy way, guys, that you can differentiate which table or which column should go out and so on. But as you move the groupings away from one table, you need to maintain the links between the tables. Because I can't just come here and delete job code. Because once I delete it, then I lose this information. I can't just come here and delete place. Once I delete this, I lose this information. I can't just do that. Okay, I really need to take time and move the data into different columns and do that. So the first thing that we need to identify, what are the groupings? So I have data about employees, I have data about the jobs, I have data about the venue, I have data about the place of work. So let's put it place of work. Also, I have data about the venue type. Okay, so this gives me an idea of what kind of data I'm having in there. If I were to create a relationship, then what I would need to do is, if I were to create, for example, let's just draw this. If I were to create, normalize it, I would just create a relationship between that table and that table, that table and that table, and basically just join this table so that the data overall is still linked together. Okay, the data overall is still linked together. But notice the way I've classified it. I've classified it by looking at the groups of data that I have. Okay, that's one way that you can do this. The other way is by performing um, first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. First normal form, eliminate the groupings. Second normal form, you will need to eliminate the partial dependencies, partial key dependencies. Okay, this is where you identify which key fields actually depend on some primary key of some kind which is existing. In third normal form, you're talking about non-key fields which depend on other non-key fields. Okay, again, you are looking at, but that step is even more complicated. But the one I'm showing you is basically quite easy. Okay, you just look at the groupings of data, and then you will know how many tables you are going to have. For example, by these groupings of data, I will know what tables I'm going to have. For example, in my employee, I'll have things like the full name, I have the surname, and then also I need to perform links. So if I'm going to connect jobs employee to the jobs table, then I need to keep a foreign key called job code. Okay, remember, in this file, second file, we've got job code and job description. This job code, which is primary key in this table, must connect with another job code somewhere, because each employee will be able to identify their job description by their code, by the job code. So the moment I see in this table, let me just get like this. The moment I see in this table the job code A, I know that this employee at the back of my mind is in the administration office. Okay, so this is why the job code must be maintained in this employees table. So somebody would be asking, but how would you know which field must be maintained in which table? Okay, I'm giving you an example. So this employee has where they are working. Okay, and also this employee has got has got the venue where they are working. Okay, not only do they have the job code, but they also have the venue. So, for example, they work as in administration and the venue. So, if I can say the venue code. Okay, so the venue code, whenever I see the venue code, where's the venue code? Whenever I see SS, then I know that this um, this um, this employee is actually working in a ski school or something like that. Okay, or he's working in a SS is representing what? Yeah, SS is representing I don't know if it's a ski shoe or what. Some names. You may end up saying something that you did not plan to say. Okay, so that's the venue code. Okay, so I'm identifying this by the venue code. For example, in the jobs, I have the job code and I have the job description. Okay, job description. That's basically what I have here. Job description. And then also notice in the venue itself, notice what I have. I should have a code to identify the venue. So I'll say the venue code. And I should have, secondly, the name of the venue. Because, I mean, this is going to be a table about the venue. So I should have the name of the venue. So I'll call it venue name. Venue name. And not only that, I should have the type of the venue. Okay, so the venue name is this one here. Um, Perhaps I should call this one venue name, maybe. Yeah, let's call it venue name so that we don't confuse you. Let's call this one venue name. Okay, so that's the venue name, this one. So the code represents the name. So when it's SS, we know that it is this skill. Okay, and also each venue will have an address. So I have address one, and I should also have address two for the venue. And then secondly, I should have um, after address one and address two, then I should have something like the type code. Okay, to link each venue should have a type. You remember in the type we'll have things like the type code, and then you have the venue type. Okay, the type code, a code to represent the this. So for example, the type code is S. If we see S, the venue type is a ski school. If we see R, we know the venue type is supposed to be restaurant. If we see H, we know that the venue type is supposed to be hotel. Okay, so this is the idea behind this. This is the idea behind this. Okay, so here I'm going to have the type code. I need to scroll to the right side here. So I'm just going to do this, push this side. Okay, so I'm going to push this side and put type code here. Okay, the type code will be there. Okay, good. So we have the type code, the employees, the jobs. I'm trying to think if the venue and the place of work. I think this is that. I don't need that. That should be fine because the venue and the type are basically the same, and rather the place of work are basically the same. So venue, venue type, and so on. So this will become my table. Okay, this will become my table, and basically when you create something like this, it's very easy now for you to know. For example, I would say that in this column, my in the jobs column, job code becomes the primary key. Let's just maximize this. In this one, venue code becomes the primary key. In this one, type code becomes the primary key. But notice that in this other table, we don't have any field that can be primary to identify one employee from the other. We can't use the job code because two employees can have the same job code working in the same place. So we may need to insert a new column here. Just cut this and paste it here. We may need to insert a new column and call it employee ID or something like that, employee ID. And let's call this one as the primary key. Where are we going to get this ID since we don't have the values? Notice we can always generate values from Access, like auto increment, and there will be like numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that should be perfectly fine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to create the different relationships that we will have about this. So I'm going just to um, let's see, get this and paste it in a different spreadsheet, and we'll be following this as we create our relationships. So copy this or cut it, just cut this one, and I'll represent it, I'll paste it in a new spreadsheet. We'll be coming to refer to it as we create our tables. Okay, oops, I didn't copy it, cut it rather, and come to the new book and paste it there. And we'll be referring to this one later on. So let's go ahead and start doing just that. So we need you don't need to start deleting fields there. You only delete after you're done with everything. Okay. So let's start with the venue thing. Let's start with this one. So in the venue, we'll have the job code, the venue name, and then the address 1, address 2, and type code. So if you come here, let's just minimize this. Come here. If you come here, I just need this. I need the venue code. Okay, so I need venue code, which is this column, and I need the venue name, which is this column, and I need address 1, address 2, and I need the type code, which is this column. Copy these. Okay, go ahead and copy them. Open a new spreadsheet, and in the new spreadsheet, just paste them like that. And then I love the primary key to be the first one, so I'll just cut it from here and paste it just right there, and I'll have word dominated. Get this one, cut it, and I'll insert cut cells. Did I just insert properly? I don't want to delete you have got 5. Okay, yeah. I was thinking I was deleting the other cells. Okay, so that's fine. Good. So we have all this information now in here, and I'm going to call this as my venue. Now notice the venue, there's a lot of duplication going on. Wherever we see SSS, what's the point of having this information which is duplicated like that? Okay, so we are going to work on that, deleting everything else and just leaving one item, because there's no need for us to remain it. So this is what we're doing now when we perform first normalization. We are removing all repeated groups. Okay, we take the data which is repeated into a different table and remove the repeated groups. So the best way again you can do this is to just basically sort this in just custom sort, expand the selection, and then select the fields. We're sorting by column A. Okay, so just make sure my data has got headers, you check it, and then sort by let's say venue code, and then A to Z, like that, so that we arrange all the duplicates in one place. And go ahead and delete this. I don't need this. Don't just hit delete on the keyboard. You need to delete the column. I don't need this. I'll delete this one. I have a lot of AH, so I'll delete all of these, and I'll just remain with that. So go ahead and do that for all the columns which are duplicated. So delete this, the DB, go ahead and delete this, and notice the EA as well. Go ahead and delete that. So here you are performing first normal form. You are removing repeated groups. And you can't just start to delete from this file, file. Otherwise, if you start to delete all the repeated groups, you delete other data as well. But notice when I delete in this case, I'm only deleting the data that is repeated. So it's pointless for me to keep this data because I have the other data. That's why I'm leaving one of each type. Okay, so just delete this and leave one, delete this and leave one, because we just need one. Delete this, leave one, and so on. So go through, guys, this whole process, and delete all the files. So I'm going to pause the video at this point, and I'll come back shortly as soon as I finish deleting. Okay. Hello guys, and welcome back. So I've just finished deleting the duplicates. So the next thing that you want to do is to confirm whether you've deleted all duplicates. So basically what you do is highlight this data and go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and find the one with duplicates. So here, notice that the data in column A, column B, column C, there are no duplicates, okay? But we do have duplicates in column D and column E because of the different types, okay? Type code, these are hotels, and so we don't mind this. The other thing that I would like to mention here, guys, that normalization doesn't eliminate all duplicates. It just reduces the duplicates. Notice we had a lot of duplicates. If you compare this data to the one that is on the left here, you see that there's a lot of duplicates. But after normalizing to the first normal form this table, we do not have duplicates in this data, in this table, okay? If we do, then they are just minimal when we can live with this, okay? You can tell that a lot of data in here is actually very different compared to just the data in these two columns, okay? So that's very important. So now that we're done with this one, I'm going to save this table as venues table. So I'll call it as venues. So in work files, let's call it venues. And I'll save it as a CSV file because I don't need any formulas per se. Okay, agree. And then the next data that we need to work on is the one for is the jobs. We already have it. Okay, so I'm going to put this one in yellow. We already have this one. We already have this one. We need now to work on the venue type. So for the venue type, we just need the type code and the venue, what do you call it? The venue type itself. Just the type code and the venue type. These two. So what we'll do is just get the venue, the type code, which is this one here, and the venue type, which is this one here. Just copy them, go to File, New, New Table, New Spreadsheet, and paste them there. Okay, so I'll get this one as usual. I like it to be the first one, so switch them like that. And notice that for the types also, we have We have got a lot of them. So too many of them. So again, we're going to perform first normal form here. So basically, you're deleting everything that has to do with this. So another alternative is just to change this. Just put when H it's hotel, and when it's R it's actually restaurant, like that. We don't have to start deleting and deleting and deleting. Where are we? When are we going to finish? Just now, delete everything at once because we only have three types. When it's S, it's key school. Let's just put capital C here. And when it's H, it's hotel, and when it's R, it's restaurant, and that's it. So go ahead and save this one, and this one will save it as venue type, and make sure it is saved in the same place where you saved the other files. Save it as a CSV file, so comma delimited, and save it like that. And yes. Okay, so we go back to the other small table. This one is done. So this is acting more like your data dictionary, guiding you on which one should be which one, and so on. Notice on the employees now. On the employees, we just need to return only the employee ID, the full name, the surname, the job code, and the venue. These are the only thing that we need to return in the employee table. So the rest of the stuff we can go ahead and delete it. So I'll delete these other stuff except job code and venue code. Okay, so this stuff should go. This should go because we already have it in the other file. We've saved it somewhere. The venue type should go. We've saved it somewhere. So let's delete this. Okay, now I have the venue, the full name, surname. Remember, I still don't have the employee ID, but when we import this file into your database, we're going to create that ID field. Okay, so now we have this one, the type code, which is not supposed to be here because we already have it represented somewhere. Okay, and we'll delete that. So we have these four fields remaining. The fifth field is supposed to be employee ID, which we are going to get later on when we get it. And all the tables have now been created. Okay, so just save this as employees. Why am I saving it as a different name? Because you don't want to mess around with the original file. Okay, otherwise you have to start the whole process again. So let's call this one employee edited or normalized, just to differentiate it. Okay, just in case I need to get back to that other file, if I delete it, then that's it. You are doomed. Okay, so yeah, so now we have these files. We haven't yet created relationships within these tables. Now remember, when you create database relationships, you are actually talking about connecting primary keys and foreign keys. And so you need to identify which keys will be primary and which keys will be foreign. For example, all these keys in my column B, I've decided that these keys will be my primary keys. So I'm going to give them a different shading. These will be my primary keys, but I can identify which fields will be my foreign keys. So a foreign key is one key which is primary in one table and also just an ordinary field in another table. So for example, type code is primary in this table, but it is just an ordinary field in this other table. So I'll give it the mark of green. So that's a foreign key. Notice also that job code will be foreign key in this employees table, but it is primary in the jobs table. So that's where the relationship will be created between employee and jobs. And also venue code is foreign in this table, but it is primary in the venue code here. And again, the employees table will be connected to the venues table. And you'll notice that these tables will be disconnected together. Also, notice so you have basically three relationships between your tables. Okay, you have three relationships between your tables. So the number of relationships that you have between tables is dependent on the number of tables that you have, which you are trying to link. If you've got four tables, then you have three relationships. If you've got five tables, then you have four relationships. If you've got six tables, you have five relationships. If you've got seven tables, you have six relationships. So the number of relationships are always one less than one less than the number of tables that you have. For example, this, you have only one relationship between the two tables. If you've got three tables like this one, you have two relationships, okay? This one and this one, and so on and so forth, okay? So let's go ahead and now create our relationship with the database. So we'll open up Access, and we'll go to blank database. This is June 2019. Let's call it AS to differentiate it from the IG papers perhaps that I would have done. AS June 2019, and I'll close up this, and we'll start now to import the different tables that we've made, okay, so far. So go ahead and import them. So specify the folder which you are importing your tables from, and start now to import. Let's start with the venue type itself. So venue type, and go here. Okay, so all the files must be closed, otherwise you get these errors. So let's go ahead and close all the files. Just make sure that you've saved them all. Save, yes, close. Save this one as well. Save, yes, close. Save this one, close, save, yes. And one more, venue, close, and save. Okay, so we now have this one. I don't need to close it. I basically just need this one. Okay, so go ahead and create now. Try to import them one more time. In the worked files, you are getting venue type. Venue type, go to next, and then you specify your delimiter. First row contains field names, and you have your data like that. And okay, this is text, we don't mind, so go to next. Choose primary key. Now, if you let Access add a primary key, it will add a new column called ID and specify the numbers like that. We don't want that for this table. So just choose my own primary key, and we'll choose type code. Go to next, and venue type table will be imported, and go to finish. Next, we import another table, browse, and we import this time the venues table. So go there. Next, first row contains field names. Specify these data types here. Okay, that they are short text. That should be fine. Next, and choose my key. Venue code will be my primary key. Go to next, and finish. Let's go to the next file. We'll call it the jobs file. And this one is where you need to be very careful. If you go to next, notice that you have data which has got quotes around the job description. This is a trick here. If you don't realize this, you're going to mess around this database like a lot. It won't allow you to have this data type. I mean, you will have errors. So what's the key here? You need first of all to select first row contains field names, but you need to come here where it says text qualifier. Currently it's at none, so you need to say whatever they are quotes, whatever they are quotes, whatever they are quotes, whatever they are quotes, it should be text. And notice that the quotes are out now. If you don't do this, you're going to have a database which is going to be complete. After importing the CSV file, if you try to open in datasheet view, you will see restaurant will have staff, restaurant staff will have quotes around it. Administration office will have quotes around it. And when you perform a search, that's going to be a difficult part, because if I ask you to find job description, restaurant staff, you won't find that. Okay, you won't find that, because the moment Access sees the quotes, it's thinking you're looking for that exact thing. But we are looking for restaurant staff with quotes, and not necessarily just restaurant staff. Okay, so specify that as that. And sometimes you may specify as a single quote, but in this case we have a double quote, so make sure it's double quote like that. Go to next, and then go to next and specify job code as the primary key, and the jobs table, I'm going just to call it jobs, and finish it. Okay, and then the last table to be imported should be the employees table. So this is the one that we just say employees normalized, and go ahead and here. So next, First row contains field names, that's fine. Notice that the data type is still fine text. But here on primary key, let access add primary key. That's what we want because we didn't have a primary key. So we're going to add our own primary key. We're going to allow access to add primary key. And that will be, the records will be distinguished by these numbers. So go to next. Here we're going to say employees. So we just remove the normalized part here and just say employees. And that's a meaningful name of the table. And notice we have all the tables imported. So the next thing that you want to do is to set the different data types that you want for that. If there's need to set, no, I don't think there's need to set the data types. We just go ahead and start to link these tables. So create relationships and link them like that. Okay. So start now to link get the primary key and drop it onto the foreign key. So remember our ID was employee ID. So get job code, drop it there. Enforce referential integrity at A level. It's important to enforce referential integrity only if it doesn't work out to enforce referential integrity. But what it does, it checks that the data in one table and column that you're trying to refer to is consistent with the data in another table column that you're trying to refer to. And it actually exists. So if you're trying to refer to a record which has been deleted, referential integrity will tell you that such a record doesn't exist. Okay. So that's very important. So create a relationship, get venue code and drop it onto venue code in here and enforce referential integrity. So remember, we are joining the primary key to the foreign key. So get type code and join it to type code in here. And that is the relationship that we have created. So notice this is beautiful. Okay, so these are the relationships that we have. And in your evidence document, you can provide this as evidence that you have created actually your relationships. Okay, so get this as a screenshot, paste it somewhere. Okay, I don't know if in the question we've been asked to paste some relationship evidence or stuff like that. Here we haven't been told to do that. Yeah, but it's just important that you paste in your evidence document evidence that you've created this. Always, it's important in databases. Examiners want to see that you've created this. So what we do is, where's my access? So it's just down here. So what you do is just get a screenshot of this. First of all, get a screenshot of this, copy it, and go to your evidence document and paste it there. So give it, this is, for example, if it's evidence 7, paste it there, okay? And then start now to paste the relationship between different windows. So for example, come here and get the relationship between this one and this one. Just double click on this line, get this, okay? Just get this, copy it, go to your evidence document and paste it there. So that's the relationship between this and this. Just crop it out. It doesn't have to be very strange. That's fine. Perhaps you didn't even need this one because we've already showed the one on top here. So I don't need to show this. I just need to get this one. Just get this. So use a snipping tool. Use a snipping tool. Where's my snipping tool? It's here. So I'm going to get a window snip. Just say this one, new. I'm getting this snip, copy it, and then paste it in your evidence document like that. Then go again and get the other screenshot. So you guys can go ahead and do the screenshots for these other relationships. Make sure you double click on the black line here and get a snipping tool and copy this one. And no, you need a new and copy this one and go ahead and paste it in your evidence document. We need one more. Come here. Okay, get this one. Make sure you click on the line, get this one, get a snipping tool, and get a new one and get this window. Bingo. Copy it and paste it in your evidence document. Evidence document. Come on. Yep, and paste it like that. Okay, that should be fine. So the examiner will tell that you've been able to create the one-to-many relationship. That should be perfectly fine. Um, so when you go to the question paper, so we've created the databases to a third normal form. We've been able to get the relationships and so on, and we need just to save the database at this stage with this information here. So just go ahead and save this. So come here. Where is it? So it's supposed to be LMAO and your candidate number. So just go File, Save As, and then it's a new database. Yeah, so we need to close some objects that we opened. So come here, save this, and then go ahead and save this now. Okay, and in the same work area, save it as LMAO and then 0001 as your database. Okay. So done with step number 17, and this is where students were complaining that it had 42 marks. But guys, if I tell you where these marks were coming from, you will laugh at yourself. If you skip this question and say, I'm not going to do this question because there are 42 marks. But it's also good, it's also important to know where these 42 marks were actually coming from. And perhaps it's a good idea for me just to share with you where these 42 marks were coming from. So just being able to create the relationships that you were creating, um, um, like being able to create the relationships and the windows, come here, just take it to design view. Being able to create this, for example, earned you a lot of marks, okay? Um, Jobs, creating jobs, for example, creating the venue type here, you got something like 6 marks just to create this, to create the venues table. You had something like could have been 8 marks or so, just creating the jobs table. You had something like 6 marks, just creating the employees table. You had something like, I think should have been 12 marks or something just to create this. I'm not so sure, but I checked from the mark scheme sometime back when I was going through this paper with my students in class, and I was just telling them this same point to say, I mean, imagine you are crying that this question is 42 marks, but you don't even know where the 42 marks are coming from these little things that you do in the exam, and that's where your 42 marks will come from. Okay, so and then showing things like your relationship windows, like the one that we were just doing our evidence document. These also carried some marks. So we had things like about, let me just say, maybe something like 9 marks allocated for just for showing these three relationship windows. So basically, just by doing this, you guys scored a lot of marks, or could have scored, or should have scored a lot of marks on this question. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for watching in this video. I'll see you in the next video where we look at step number 18 and step 19, and that will be to wrap up the video. It'll be very short, actually, just to wrap it up then. Okay, so I'll see you then shortly. Bye-bye.